And that stuff, that chi stuff, is part of the spirit component. That's why and I'm going to bring up the Bible again, please don't freak out, okay? It's not going to kill you. You're going to be coming across a lot of Bible thought in this series of material, in the series of recordings, and in the series of YouTube videos. You're going to be coming across a lot of biblical information. I'm just not couching it as religion, but I want you to see the reality of it, because there's a lot of physics to it, and I want you to see that. But the human design is the human design. I don't care where you go on this planet. I don't care what that person looks like. I don't care what they're okay. There's this and there's that and this and that and this and that. Hey, when it comes to the energy system, other words, the spirit component, we're all the same. It's a human design. It works in conjunction with planet Earth. It works in conjunction with planet Earth. I'm going to say that again because it's so important that you really pick up on this. It works in conjunction with planet Earth. And planet Earth works in conjunction with the sun and the solar system. And the reason I say that so slowly and carefully is because Chi and the sun are pals. We're solar creatures, people. Solar creatures. That's why people go insane if they don't go out in the sun. If they just live at nighttime and never go out, you'll notice they start getting a little loony. I mean, that's if they're sane beings to begin with. Okay, well, I work a graveyard shift, blah, 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 blah. I never see the sunshine. Well, if you don't see the sunshine for months on end, you start getting loony. I mean, you get around these people and you'll notice, hey, these people are kind of acting strange. Because they're out of balance from what we are designed to be. That's why it's important to understand the design. You see what I'm saying? And this is the design. Now, another thing about the spirit component is, and we're going to borrow from Star Wars, life force. Use the force, Luke. Use the force. Now, life force is also in the Bible. Oh my gosh. You mean the Bible and Star Wars have something in common? No, please. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they do. In more ways than you could possibly imagine, they have things in common because they're talking about a kind of physics of creation. Life force, the force of your personal life, comes through your chi flow. Your chi flow keeps your cells alive. That's why the blood and the chi work in harmony. Okay? It keeps your cells alive. When you get really sick and jacked up, it's because your chi, and we're not talking about microorganisms, you get invaded with that and you got a viral invasion, now that's a different story. You know, is your chi powerful enough to fight it off? That's the real question there. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about getting sick. On that one level, and you know what I mean. It's because your chi is out of whack. It's out of balance. Usually because we live in societies that just feed us trashy diets all of our lives. I mean, honestly, and I'm no stranger to eating a trashy diet. Don't think that I'm like a health freak or a health nut and I've been living like this all my whole life, you know? No. But I do know enough about Qi to say, hey, look, we need to take this in to counterbalance that. We need to do this to counterbalance that because I'm out of balance. And we're going to talk about balance later on in a different subject matter, but this is the life force. Now, let me talk Bible for a minute. You know, Old Testament stuff, and let's go back past the Bible, okay? Past when the Bible was written. The Bible was written by a guy known as Moses. But before Moses was alive, there was lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of other people that lived and died before that guy. Okay? So, dig this. For a long time, they were sacrificing animals. And matter of fact, they still do that stuff in certain parts and certain cultures of the world. Where they'd be like, yes, we must sacrifice this animal. Well, what is that all about? That's about the blood and the life force in the blood. And I could go into a big, giant, long Jesus explanation, the blood of Jesus. But just hold that in your head, that there's a difference between the spirit, because I'm talking religion, I'm reinforcing this again. There's a difference between the spirit and the soul components, and the spirit component holds the life force. That's what keeps people young. That's what keeps them from going out of balance. That's what keeps them healthy. The spirit component does all that. It also, when your chi is activated and you can use it. Now, this is going to sound insane to some of you and very esoteric, but I've used chi to heal very many people. Actual chi. If you work with it through internal Chinese Kung Fu, it actually becomes something you can harness. The better you are at harnessing it, the better you are at actually using it to help other people. And if you have to use it for fighting, we'll leave that one alone, but it's powerful stuff, okay? But it's not the same kind of chi. There's different variations, but when it comes to the spirit component, that's one aspect of the spirit component. The chi, and I use that because TCM is recognized around the world as a very real thing. And only people that just have decided, I'm closing my mind off to this, and I'm never going to look at it because it's nonsense. Only those kind of people will not recognize it for what it is. The evidence is simply overwhelming. The whole thing is based on chi. The whole thing is based on life force within the design of the human being. That's the whole thing. All of it. All of it. Okay, so when it comes to the four components, just know, oh, you mean the spirit component is not so esoteric? Yes, correct. It's not so esoteric. Now, does that mean that you can't look at it from an esoteric perspective? Of course you can, but most people do not think that way. I see it from both perspectives, but I recognize and respect the reality of its true physics and its true design within the physiology. And I also recognize the consciousness component is also something that guides it. And I also recognize that part of what cultivates it is also the soul component, which is what we're going to talk about next. But the spirit component is kind of intensive, so that's why I'm taking time and I'm going to explain it. Now there's another aspect to this as well that I want you to look at. This one is a little more esoteric. I'm going to go over this real quickly. This one the spiritual types will get, and the religious types will get, because these are very viable paths on earth, and many people walking these paths, and it's kind of sad that more people don't actually. It's very important for balance on Earth, and I'm not picking one brand or another. I'm just saying, let's look at this. Let's stand back from way high up and look down on this for what it is. And let's keep the physics available to our minds while we're doing this, okay? But, oh, I'm very spiritual. You hear this all the time. Oh, these are the spiritual people. Or you got the guy in church. Oh, I'm in church right now. Oh, we're doing spirit things right now because we're in church, the Spirit of God and all that, There's also that part of it. Oh, I saw an entity. It was a spirit. there's an esoteric aspect of this because you're dealing with life force. Now, when you're going into esoteria, you're actually combining life force with consciousness. So it's not purely one component that you're looking at. But you cannot have the kind of esoteria that they're talking about in religion or spiritual aspects without the raw truth component of, here's the spirit component, chi, or the life force, or use the force, Luke, and be careful of the dark side. Now, it just doesn't exist without that. But the esoteric side blends the consciousness because you're talking about different spirit beings or different this and that. So they blend the consciousness with the life force, which is what your chi is, by the way. And so then you get that whole esoteric end of it. It's just as real, in my opinion. You don't have to believe it. It's just as real as the TCM. Here's your chi. It's just as real as that, but it's coming at it from a different view because now you've couched it in esoteria or religion or spirituality. So this should give you a pretty good understanding that there is indeed a difference between the spirit and the soul. And the spirit and the soul are each separate parts, one each of the four components: body, mind, spirit, and soul, or all of the physiology, all of the consciousness, all of the energy, and all of the connectivity, body, mind, spirit, and soul, of what humans are. In other words, humans being, or if you like human beings better, I kind of like the humans being bit better. It says a lot more in a much purer way. It's sort of closer to raw truth. Okay, we're going to move on now to the soul component. There's a lot of stuff to see in the soul component, so we're going to move on to that now.